Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be joined this morning by the General Manager of Parks, Recreation and Culture, Dan Chenier. Dan, good morning.
Morning, Councillor.
Dan, thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you have been and the team is, specifically with the latest announcements. Before we go there, share with us, the city has a footprint in every community when you think of recreation and culture. The 2020 year was not as planned. Share with us some of the challenges that you and your team have faced last year.
You're right, Councillor. It's been a crazy year. Recreation and cultural services are probably one of the most impacted services at the city with the pandemic, simply because many of the things that we offer in the community, swimming lessons, skating, camps, those kinds of things, most of those things have been cut back, shut down, or curtailed significantly at one point or another since last March. Everything, all of our recreation facilities closed in March. And then we were able to reopen a little bit for the summer. We were able to offer camps in a much reduced and much more regulated format. We're able to operate the beaches and the wading pools, which was, I think, a great relief. Open the splash pads. Because we had a fear of a summer without all of those things would have been very difficult, especially during the heat waves. So that was very successful, and we were able to launch a limited number of services this fall. But as things progressed through the fall, it became evident that we would be curtailing again. And in December, we are now again primarily shut down. So it's been a bit of a yo-yo year with significant impact both on our direct programming, but also on a lot of the community groups that rely on us for ice time, for pool time, for access to gyms. So it's had a significant impact in terms of the choices of what people have been able to do.
Yeah, and we've all been impacted. Absolutely. I've seen the communication as a client of the city, as a young parent who does the learn to skate, learn to swim with the city. You and your team have communicated those information throughout. Share with the residents, especially now in the new year. There's a second round of we'll call it closures, which has continued to have impact on your services. How does it work? So ultimately, if I go into Windsor or another city in Ontario, will the same measures apply? And who makes the decision? How do you interpret the provincial regulations and so on?
Yes, Councillor, and that's an important point, because I know councillors and the mayor have been receiving several inquiries and often pleas to please reopen
pools,
my lane swims, or my pickleball, access to pickleball, or a lot of the programs that are part of people's daily routines. And every time we've closed and every time we've had to add restrictions in terms of number of people that can participate, or many of the restrictions that have been put in place, all of these stem from provincial regulations. These are health laws that are passed by the province, and we work very closely with Ottawa Public Health and Dr. Etches to understand what the province is telling us in terms of the regulations and implementing those in the way that is of least impact to our clients. But often when it's a complete closure or a very strict restriction, these are all intended to help with the health issues that we are facing. But they are provincial regulations, they are the law, and the city as staff and city council, we really do have to comply with everything that we're being asked to do.
It's certainly not in your DNA as a service provider. Your DNA is to open and provide programs. So it is. I can only imagine on you and the team how challenging it is, because people want the pools open. You want the pools open too.
Yes, it's been a very difficult time working under a very centralized provincial authority, because it's not a service that they generally regulate very much, except for aquatics and some very basic safety pieces. But in large part, each municipality has the ability to shape these programs and offer them the way that meets their local residents. And this has been trying when someone in an office tower in Toronto is deciding on on things that they don't generally regulate. It's often hard to interpret, and it's often even more difficult to implement in terms of how programs are already organized and what makes sense to the public type of thing. So we've worked our way through it, and we have a ways to go, but we're hopeful that sometime in 2021 we can start to gain more autonomy and start to reopen to what people are used to.
And thanks for that. I think it's important that we share where those decisions are being made, and ultimately we make sure that public safety is othermost taken care
Yes.
of during this period. Speaking of 2021, it's been a slow start to the winter. Usually we'd be freezing with a lot more snow. It's put a lot of attention over the Christmas holidays, over the holiday period, to our refrigerated city surfaces, thinking of the Rink of Dreams, thinking of Jim Tubman at Canterbury and Lansdowne and Ben Franklin. Share with us what obviously Vera Etches and Ottawa Public Health is telling us: get outside, stay physically active. How can we do so safely in this period? And maybe give us an insight. You know that your team's quite involved with all of the outdoor rink operations. So where are
Yes.
we at in this time?
Yeah, I mean, those 4 refrigerated rinks have been a godsend in December because it did offer an alternative. We had a very warm December with not a lot of snow. We had a green Christmas. And generally, we like to start our outdoor rinks mid-December in a normal year. We need a good base of snow to do that properly. 15, 20 centimeters is ideal, and cold weather. And we had none of that this December. Ottawa has 265 outdoor community rinks. And so
An
when we,
impressive program. Yeah.
it's an impressive, it's probably one of the broadest in Canada, I would say. Um, and when all of those rinks are up and running, they generally, and the canal, we generally don't get the overcrowding at the refrigerated rinks that we saw this December. We are in the second week of January. We've had a bit of snow between Christmas and New Year's and a bit of cold weather. So about half of our 265 rinks are now open. We're starting to see that is eased off. The demand on the refrigerated rinks. We also instituted just after Christmas a reservation system for the 4 refrigerated rinks. People can go online, book 45 minutes of time, and that has helped alleviate the overcrowding at primarily the Rink of Dreams, but a few of the others. And in the less than a week that we've had 1,800 reservations for people wanting to come and skate.
There's certainly a need. People are home. They're looking for things to do. They're looking to stay physically active. So we're hoping for a little colder weather so the canal opens. Obviously, a little more snow so that the community winter trails open. Those start expanding the risk. We have tobogganing hills as well. So a number of activities that can continue. That said, your team continues to work. A lot have been relocated to support public health efforts and vaccination, which is the light in all of this. But your team has also put together a virtual experience. Before you share with us in terms of recreation and so on, the number of partners, the museums and cultural groups, many of them have also gone online and offer some level of programming. So if you're in your neighborhood, you're thinking of the Ottawa Art Gallery, for example, go on their website. They have additional details than what we're providing to you today. But in terms of city operations, Dan, the team's gone virtual.
Yes, the pandemic has, I think, poked everyone along to accelerate the leap into the virtual world. Over the summer, we purchased equipment and we started to pilot and experiment with both virtual programming and virtual presentations in terms of artistic presentations, those kinds of things, and found that there was a market for it and that there was an interest as people ran out of other options. So over the last week, we have launched our virtual programming guide, both in French and English, on ottawa.ca. And tomorrow night, January 14th, is our first opening of our registration for the program offering that we have. It's still a modest collection of programming that touches on fitness, things like yoga, programming of special interest for the kids. It's still very modest, and we hope it will grow. We hope people will give us feedback in terms of what is being offered now, but also other things that within the limitations that a virtual programming experience gives you, what they would like to see. And we've already had comments, for example, from seniors on types of things that they would like to see that interest them. So we will learn from the winter session, and we will grow from there, I suspect, as this becomes more accepted as a way of delivering service.
And your team has put some, recognizing that it is a complete transition for some to join a city program online. You can join for free, get a sense of how, if you enjoy it for the first time. If you do, you can sign up for the fees and for the classes, and the fees are quite reasonable. Your team has lowered those as well.
Yes, what we did, because we understand that many people have not taken an online program before, and committing to 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of programming without knowing what it really feels like is perhaps a barrier for people. So for a lot of the programs we offered, we've created an initial workshop. So you can just sign up for that and try the workshop. And if it works for you, if it's something you enjoy, if the experience, the instructor, the technology keeps up with the programming, then you might want to think about registering for a multi-week session of that. So it's a bit of an appetizer, so to speak,
Sure.
to get people used to it,
Yeah.
recognizing that for many, this is probably not the way they intended to take services. But right now it's what we have available. It's what we can do, and hopefully people will find some interest in it, and that it does meet a need that over the winter months.
Absolutely. For all the details, they're found on the city's website on ottawa.ca.
That's right, ottawa.ca, where you would normally find our much broader offering of real-time programming. It's all there in a French and an English guide.
Thanks for your time today, Dan. Thanks for your leadership and the entire team for pivoting. I know that it's not simple, but I have to say that your team continues to stay active and to be supportive of other city departments as well and residents of Ottawa. So really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Councillor.